On today's show, we talk to author-illustrator Jan Brett, make a visit to Book and Treat, hear original poetry, learn about Christchurch's Thrift Shop, hear from poet Miriam O'Neal, and talk about upcoming events in our South Shore towns. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Jan Brett is one of the top author-illustrators of children's books. Known for her colorful illustrations of a wide range of animals and her depiction of diverse cultures, this three-time New York Times bestseller made her indelible mark on children's literature. We sat down with Jan to talk about her life, her work, and her first national book tour in 4 years.
The bus is wrapped with all wintry things because it's a winter bus tour. There's a couple of books from COVID that I never got to go around with. Usually I go every year and it'll be the new book. And so I'll be talking about them and signing them. And there's a costume of Hedgie that comes, which makes it kind of festive and fun. Oh, and I have news notes. For every book that I do, and it's also on my website, it's a letter to kids about how I got the idea, where I went to do the research, and like little tidbits, things that I can't put in the book. Like, for example, a tidbit that I couldn't put in the book about Cozy, that Wolverine character. At one point he falls into a lead, which is part of when the ice separates, and he comes out and he's covered with ice balls and he needs shelter, so he asks Cozy for shelter. But in real life, Wolverines, their fur rejects any kind of ice, so I have to tell them that was when I kind of used my artistic license. And then I tell them that they can use their artistic license when they're drawing so that they kind of understand that as long as you know what it really is, you can a little bit change things if you want to. Then I do a drawing, and it's amazing if they follow the directions, they'll like have this creature that it's very easy to do. And the more it's quirky and more of their own character, the better. Like if no one's gonna say, oh, the head's too small, because it's gonna be your small-headed muskox, which is cool, right? I'm always envious that I'm so studied in my drawing. But when I look at the young kids' drawings, they just, whatever is interesting to them, they make bigger. And so I love seeing the children's drawings. I just always feel that when you place a book in someone's hands that is at that age, are so absorbent, their minds are so vibrant, they just are capturing everything. It's a big job. I want to make it, like a good experience for them, and that opens up a world, but also makes them want to discover more. Both my parents are somewhat artistic, but they love the arts, and they let us make a mess. Like we had this big counter and a drawer pulled out and it was just all filled with broken crayons. And my father worked for a computer company, and so we got all this paper. And we'd just spend hours drawing. That's just what we did. Or make a block city, or just, or huts in the woods. Those would be the three activities. My mom, she didn't believe in art lessons. She wanted us to just create and be imaginative and not get too studied at that time when we're young. And then I did go to art school. And I would say the biggest mistake I made was I felt that I didn't need to study regular subjects because I was going to be an artist. But yet what I didn't think of was that everything that would be in my intellect, quote unquote intellect, would come out in my artwork. As long as when you travel, and people would always say, see the world, because it's not until you go to like a different place, Africa, or like, and two of these books are set in Denmark and two are set in the Arctic. And I was really informed by the colors that you would see that are different there. When we went to, Costa Rica, all the colors are totally different there. And the animals were colored differently. In Africa, there's different colors you see that you don't see here. And so I would say traveling was really helpful. But it's just that exuberance that you have as a child, discovering things, that I love to recover when I'm drawing. So I'm remembering about what it's like to be 6. And I used to look at my books and say, now when I'm an illustrator, I'm going to be like this person, because I love the way that they show all the details. I would be easily offended if it looked like it was dumbed down for me. I go like, what if they think why wouldn't I be able to understand this? Why do they have to make only primary colors and big, simple objects? Now, I have to say that I'm not against cartoons, because cartoons can be very nuanced. It can just be a wiggle in a line that could be something different that makes the emotion come from this one little wiggly line. It's almost like poetry for art. And I'm on the other end of the thing. I like to put every little detail in. A lot of times at book signings, the children will see things in the books that the parents will never see, and they can't wait to show me. And it's because I think children are very visual at that age, because they don't quite have the vocabulary to express themselves, but yet they can have this great intellect. That's not going to change. And they'll see things, and they'll absorb it visually. And I think it's very satisfying them to get nuances and to understand different emotions, because I always say, like, a lot of times it's not just one emotion you feel, it's many at the same time. I use for an example, okay, you got school, first day of school the next week, and you're with your parents and you're at a state park and you're having a cookout and you're really happy because it's a gorgeous day and you can jump in the lake, but then you're thinking, well, are my shoes gonna fit? Have I got the right school supplies? Is my best friend gonna be in my room? And so you're like really happy and excited, but you're also got this like little bit of a worry thing going on too. So you have two different emotions at once, because we're complex, we're humans. And children really understand that. And you can do that in drawings. And I love being able to do that. Like, a perfect example is the hat, where Hedgie is a hedgehog, and he gets stuck in a mitten. He's just exploring, because they're kind of looking for things, and mostly bugs, in hollow logs, and he finds a mitten that's come off a line, and he gets stuck on his prickles. So he has to see, all the farm animals are saying, oh, you look ridiculous with that, just teasing him about this thing on his head. And so he has to try to get it off. At the same time, he's kind of pretending like nothing's wrong. Like, oh, I'm just wearing it because I'm protecting me from the snow. And he's trying to make up all this stuff, because remember being that age, like you wear the wrong thing. I usually get a plot idea first, because I always come up with great characters, like an animal or a person or a personality, and then I come up with a great setting, traveling, but then it's putting a plot there. That's the hard part. When I first went around with my portfolio just as an illustrator, I went to Houghton Mifflin, and the editor there, Walter Lorraine, said, Jan, you're a good enough artist, we'd love to use you, but we've got to find a writer to match you. Had you ever thought of writing your own books? I said, oh no, I'm a terrible writer. I hate writing. I don't like it at all. I shouldn't use the word hate. I don't like writing. I'm not comfortable writing. And he says, yeah, but how about a storyteller? And I go, oh yeah, I can tell stories. And then I have two younger sisters, and every time I open my mouth, they all roll their eyes and go, okay, is this true? Because I would always make things up. This is as a child, and could possibly be as an adult too, but I'm not gonna admit to it. I just want them to feel like they've gone to another world, that everything is so convincing that they feel like it's a place. It's like Winnie the Pooh in that forest. It's just like there's Piglet's house, and it just seems like a place. Or, so many books are like that. You just feel like this must be real. This can't. Or when the book ends, you go like, okay, well, now what? What's going to happen to that character? So I like to get that other world, and because as an adult, I still search for that.
For more information on Jan Brett and her work, visit janbrett.com. Celebrate the most magical time of the year with the Plymouth Philharmonic. On December 10th, the Phil brings you Hometown Holiday, a lush program filled with all of the joy this magical time of year has to offer. To commemorate the 180th anniversary of the beloved classic, A Christmas Carol, the night will include the short musical vignette, The Ghost of Christmas Present, with actor Neil McGarry performing all of the parts. Tenor Matthew Anderson will also be gracing the stage with a beautiful rendition of Disney's God Bless Us, Everyone. And to cap off this gorgeous evening, the Phil will be doing a deep dive into the great holiday songbook. And who knows? knows? There might even be a visit from good old St. Nick. For tickets, please visit theplymouthphil.org. If you're looking to get a start on your Christmas shopping, head to the Kingston COA on December 2nd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. for the Friends of the Kingston Council on Aging Christmas Fair. Enjoy a variety of crafters and vendors, refreshments, face painting, a bake sale, and raffles. And make sure to bring your camera for a photo op with Santa. For more information, call 781-585-0512. Plymouth native Miriam O'Neal is a poet, reviewer, and biographer with numerous published works, award nominations, and recognitions. Tiff Phillips sat down with Miriam to talk about her background, her work, and what truly fulfills her.
All right, I'm with poet, reviewer, and biographer Miriam O'Neal. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So I need to ask you, where'd you grow up? What's your background?
I grew up in Manomet, a half a block from the beach. My parents moved there when I was 2, and I moved away briefly and ended up moving back, and I've been here ever since.
And why Plymouth?
Why did they move to Plymouth?
Yeah, why have you stayed in Plymouth?
Oh, why have I stayed in Plymouth? Well, I commuted to Boston for work for many years, and it was a straight shot up the highway. This was pre-commuter train. And then I commuted to Quincy. Then I commuted to Middleborough. It was an easy commute to most places I worked. I worked in high tech for a long time.
Oh, wow. That is quite the switch, and now you're writing.
And now I'm writing, yes.
Wow. So did you always know that writing was going to be a part of who you are?
Yeah, I did. I was writing poems when I was in the 3rd grade. When Kennedy died, I wrote a poem for his children that was used at the school service, memorial service for Kennedy. So yeah, I guess I read somewhere that if you're not sure what to do with your life, think about what you wanted to do when you were 11 years old. Because it's pre all that pressure and hormones and all that stuff. And what I wanted to do was write poems and put words on paper. So I did.
What does poetry itself do for you? How does it fulfill you?
Oh, it fulfills me. It fills me is a better way to put it. It gives me a sense of having sorted something, some interior, some feeling or sense of something. Not so that I can tie it up in a neat bow and put it aside, but it makes it easier to live with mysteries. And we all have, I think, emotional and sensible meaning of the senses, mysteries in our lives. And for me, poetry sorts that and helps me hold it without worrying about it.
Do you think poets in general have to have a certain amount of empathy, feeling, or do you think anyone can be a poet?
I think poets are people who pay attention in a different way. Attention comes from the verb attend, and I think poets attend the world in a different way. We listen differently. And that's not to say that we're all dreamy-eyed, staring at the moon people, but our attention, we see with our peripheral vision as much as straight on, and it's that tiger in the grass feeling of, oh, there it is. Oh, there it is.
And so how would you characterize your poetry?
That's most of my poetry is what I would call narrative lyric. Usually it tells a story, and it's lyrical, and it can't get away from that. And I don't want to, but that's mostly what I do. And I work in forms more than I used to. So working in forms asks of the poet to let go, because which sounds weird. Form sounds like it's enclosing you, But a form, if you let go of yourself inside the form and just not try to do a thing, but let the form help you do it.
Hmm.
It works. A really good example of a form doing its work is a pantoum by Zvinia Orlowski, who lives up in Marshfield. She's Ukrainian American, and she wrote a poem in honor of when Oksana Bayul won the figure skating gold in the Olympics, and it was just after Ukraine had become an independent country again. Excuse me. And the pantoum is a poem that is a form that repeats certain lines. And by using the pantoum form, she was able to capture the sense of, she's describing Bayul going around the rink. And we all have seen figure skaters as they round the oval, doing certain things at certain places. But that continuous looping through around the rink is in the form of the poem, which is so cool.
That's, yeah, the movement depicted in that. That's
yeah.
incredible. So say you have writer's block. How do you get over that?
Patience.
Patience.
And just putting a few words on the page.
Mm.
Not setting yourself up for failure. It's almost like what you don't do as opposed to what you do. At the minimum, just being patient with yourself will get you past it will get me past writer's block, but also paying attention to the fact that I'm not writing and listening for what's going on in my head. Because, even when you're not putting the pen to the paper or the fingers to the keyboard, writers are writing. And I heard Mary Oliver say this in a speech she gave. She said, "You're still a writer when you're in the dentist chair. When you're in the chair, you're still a writer. It's not like you're a writer at your desk and then you go to the dentist. When you're in the dentist chair, you're still a writer."
What other advice would you have for people who are just starting out maybe in poetry or writing in general?
Read. Read a lot. And don't read what makes you comfortable only. Do read what makes you comfortable. And start with your contemporaries. Start with people who are writing now, whose voices and diction you would recognize. Don't start with Virgil. Don't start with Keats. I love Keats and do get to Keats. But I would say start with a voice that sounds, a diction that sounds familiar to you, a tone of voice that makes sense to you. Because if you know who's writing now and then you move backwards into the canon and beyond the canon, you move to the voices that make sense to you, whether it's Jamaica Kincaid or Audre Lorde or Elizabeth Bishop or Billy Collins or anybody who speaks to you now is a good place to start for reading. And also go to open mics and go and hear the features. Don't just go to read your own poem. Go to hear what other people are doing. Find your people. Writers need people. It's a very isolating process, writing is. So we need our people. We need the other writers who are also in their isolation and need to come together.
Who do you or what do you look to for inspiration? What gets you going?
That is a really broad question.
Yeah.
I mean, I should say the answer is very broad.
Right.
Because it depends the day. I have poems that have come first thing in the morning as I'm waking from a dream. As a matter of fact, the title poem of this book, We Start With What We're Given, came to me. I woke from a dream of about the play Romeo and Juliet. And there's a line after they've been married, Romeo and Juliet have married and they have their one night of wedded bliss. And they wake up in the morning and it's time for him to go because he's killed her cousin. And they hear the lark. And she says, "It is the nightingale." And he says, "No, it's the lark." And I just woke up with those lines in my head and a whole 2-page poem came out of it. So that can happen. But also, we all have a subconscious that's always at work. Subconsciousness, I guess you'd call it. And sometimes when I'm just sitting still, apropos of nothing, some image or a few words will come. And I use my cell phone and send myself notes. I write as much, I just let the words come. I send the note to myself in my email, and then I work from that. So there are very different ways of finding the poem. Birds give me poems all the time.
Can you tell us about a few of your works?
Okay, I told you about we start with what we're given. For instance, a third of my first book, We Start With What We're Given, is dedicated to the artist Esther Laurie, who survived the Holocaust. And I found her, I was reviewing a book for someone, a translation of a Polish writer, a Polish poet. And in one of his poems, he refers to the only woman whose art survived the Holocaust. And I thought, well, that can't be too hard to find out. But I knew that there were more than one. I knew that more than one person's art had survived. Not a lot, but some. So I started digging around, and I discovered this woman, Esther Laurie. And her art ended up being hung in the courtroom in Jerusalem during the Eichmann trial in support of the oral testimony of some of the other survivors. So I thought, well, she's interesting. She's important to know about. And she haunted me for about 6 months, and I just wrote poem after poem after poem about her life. I did research. I read about the ghetto that she lived in Lithuania, that she was imprisoned in Lithuania, the Kovno ghetto. And then she was in 3 different slave labor camps, and she survived. So I learned about her life, and then I wrote a series of, I think there are 17 poems dedicated to her.
So what do you think your greatest accomplishment has been? Personally, professionally, what are you going to look back on and say, yeah, I did that?
Ooh. Well, I think I know that my mother had great hopes that I would publish poetry. So she's not alive anymore, and I'm pleased to be able to say that I did. To know that she would be pleased for me. I'm pleased. I don't think I have a greatest accomplishment, but I have a lot of accomplishments I'm glad about. I'm glad that I've been able to shepherd Poetry, the Art of Words, which is our monthly reading series here in Plymouth, for the last several years, and be part of it for more than 10 years now. Because it's a real community of poets, of young poets, meaning new to poetry poets and young poets. And I'm pleased about that. I'm glad that I had the chance to do that. I'm glad when I get an email from someone, as I did last week, from a man who runs a workshop in Boston, and he has been running workshops for a long time. He has a lot of poets come through his doors, and he sent me an email and said, I always ask my new students to bring a poem by someone who they admire, and they'd like to talk, a poem they admire and they'd like to talk about. And last week, 2 people brought poems that I had written.
That's incredible.
Well, don't you think?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have a lot of things to be grateful for and glad about. So that's my answer.
What does the future look like for you right now?
Well, I'm working on a biography at the moment. I'm also writing poetry. It looks busy. It looks wonderfully, happily engaged with words.
And you wouldn't have it any other way?
And I would not have it any other way.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks, Tiffany, for having me.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
For more of Miriam's works, visit miriamoneal.com. Most of us have seen the classic movie It's a Wonderful Life, but here's a nostalgic twist. Now you can see it as a live radio play. Imagine this iconic classic performed on stage within a fictional radio studio, complete with sound effects and an applause sign. The talented players from the Americana Theater Company will present this holiday tradition on selected dates from December 9th through 17th at the Plymouth Center for the Arts. Join in as the beloved character George Bailey contemplates his future on Christmas Eve and wonders what his world would be like if he did not exist. A heartwarming story appropriate for all ages. For more information and tickets, visit americanatheater.org. Eating healthy is not just about counting calories, but also understanding what goes into your body. Luckily for us, almost everything we eat has a nutritional label on it. But sometimes understanding what's on that label can be tricky. If you feel like you could use an education in understanding your food labels, join the Pembroke COA for the program Become a Food Label Detective on December 8th at 10 a.m. In this one-hour presentation, BID registered dietitian Marsha Richards will teach you how to navigate the nutritional information on a food package by identifying nutrient and health claims and understanding numbers and percentages. Participants who bring a food label from home will receive a free giveaway. To register, call the COA at 781-294-8220. The holidays are around the corner, but we couldn't resist doing a little flashback to Halloween. In October, the Kingston Public Library and the Kingston Rec Department invited trick-or-treaters and their families to the 3rd annual Book and Treat event at the Reed Community Center. We caught up with the KPL and the Rec Department to find out what makes this event spooktacular.
So today we're celebrating the 3rd annual Book and Treat program here in Kingston. This is a partnership between the Kingston Public Library as well as the Kingston Recreation Department here. It is partially funded in part by the Kingston Public Library Foundation. And basically what it is, it's a community program. It's a free program that allows children to come and kind of do a trick-or-treating kind of indoor program. We have a lot of inflatables and games and crafts. We have a movie room. You know, it's just a lot of fun. We have music. So it's a great community partnership between the departments, and it's a very welcoming, you know, annual tradition that we hope to continue for years to come.
We've been doing a Halloween party for years, and it was great to get some new feedback and some new ideas for this event, and collaborating and partnering is really important to all of us, and so it's great to be able to work with another department and kind of make this come together for our community. We have over 300 little kiddos registered for tonight.
This was actually a program that I started at a previous library that I had worked at, that it was basically a twist on the trunk and treat idea, because I know personally my trunk is dirty, so I'm not going to do that. So we just thought that it would be a way to do like book displays and movie displays to, you know, make the connection between trick-or-treating with relatable characters in literature and movies to entice children into reading and, you know, the enjoyment of movies.
We love Book or Treat. We love supporting the Kingston Library. They do lots of great events. And the kids love seeing all the costumes and the blow-ups and our friends.
My favorite part of the event is seeing the enjoyment of the kids and just the bringing of the families together. One of my favorite parts about this is when I see like families that dress themed get together. You know, I think that, you know, that I just love that we're able to do that, and it's not just, you know, the children dressing up, but the families getting, you know, really getting into it and, you know, having the fun. So it's not, you know, while, you know, it's tailored, you know, to children, you know, it is bringing the adults in as well.
I think events like Book and Treat are so important to this community just because it brings us all together, and actually that's what part of our mission state is, you know, building and working together to build, you know, create our community a little bit bigger and stronger, and it brings people together that might not have seen each other or known each other, so it's just the kind of epitome of how we want to work together.
It's very important to have these kind of community events. It brings people together for the enjoyment of literature, entertainment, fun, food, any opportunity to bring people together instead of like pulling them apart by individual issues or topics or whatever. It's always important to do so.
Classes, family events, gift shopping, and homework. Though fun, the holidays can be busy, especially for teens. If you're a teen and you're looking for some time and a place to wrap presents for your loved ones, carve some time out of that hectic schedule and head to the Kingston Public Library Teen Room for Teen Gift Wrapping Social. Whew. On Mondays and Tuesdays through the month of December, KPL opens its doors to teens and their friends so they can buckle down and get some wrapping done. Don't have any wrapping paper? The library's got you covered. They'll be supplying tape, scissors, paper, and tissue. All you need is the presents. No registration is required. Visit the library's website for more information. Get ready to embrace the spirit of the season with music that is soothing, uplifting, and full of joy. On December 3rd at 4 p.m., the Choral Art Society of the South Shore presents Bright Morning Stars, its 64th annual holiday concert. The First Parish Church of Duxbury will set the scene as a 4-part chorus, string quartet, and piano come together to give you a truly stunning performance. This program will include the works of Bach, Mendelssohn, and the classics Silent Night and The First Noel, a perfect way to usher in the Christmas season. For more information and to secure your tickets, visit coralartsociety.org. Here's Lynn Stan with a message about the Christ Church Thrift Shop located in Plymouth.
Located at 6 Lothrop Street, behind Christ Church, the Christ Church Thrift Shop opened in 2012 to offer our community an alternative way to shop for affordable men's and women's clothing, small furniture pieces, household items, holiday decor, and much more, while supporting the outreach ministries of the church and our local community. Friendly volunteers are available to help shoppers on Thursdays and Fridays from 10 to 4 and Saturdays from 10 to 2. Donations of gently used clean items from non-smoking homes are gladly accepted during shop hours. We welcome volunteers of all ages, regardless of affiliation, to join us. To find out more, you can call the shop at 508-746-4990 or visit christchurchplymouth.org.
On December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, Pilgrim Festival Chorus proudly brings you this year's holiday program, Christmas Joy, at the St. Bonaventure Parish. In this exquisite performance, the ensemble chorus will combine its voice with a harp, marimba, and guitar in a collection of Sousa's Spanish carols, Carols and Lullabies of the Southwest, Britain's A Ceremony of Carols, and Rudder's Dancing Day, English carols arranged for female voices, all of which combine to provide the audience with a magical listening experience. Visit pilgrimfestivalchorus.org for tickets and showtimes. Here's local poet Mark Walsh in a reading of his original work.
And with that being said, I would like to introduce Mark Walsh as our first poet.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everyone. This is my third reading at this event, and this is the one I'm most excited about because I used to not only teach in this building when it was Quincy College of Plymouth, but I helped organize poetry open mics right in this room. We read right over there in that corner. It does not look anything like it looks right now, and I'm kind of freaked out about it because I know where I am, but I don't know where I am. But anyway, I'm so excited to be in this room reading poetry again. I have two poems I'd like to read tonight. Both are about bugs. And one's about, I was talking about, I was teaching British Lit this morning, and I was talking about Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and I was talking about how the Pearl poet, used alliterative verse and a bob and wheel, and sort of alliterative verse, Anglo-Saxon, profane, the bob and wheel, Christian and sacred. So here's kind of two poems that I think are kind of sacred and profane. First one has to deal with a dragonfly. This is called Summer Fences. Summer fences. Admire dragonflies on summer fences, but only in the afternoon. A mythology born on quadruple wings sends pleasing thoughts through the ages. A girl with a dragonfly tattoo is a single soul dwelling in two bodies. On the fence, let the dragonfly be at peace. In peace, leave the dragonfly girl her soaring life. In New England, not all patriots are dragonflies. And then this next poem I was very fortunate to have published last month in a magazine out of Albuquerque, New Mexico called Abandoned Minds, and this is called Cockroach Poet. Cockroach Poet. These lines are not for the new romantics living in hovels while diving into dumpsters and writing their lines on stained napkins. These lines are not for the old beats coursing through back alleys at midnight while on the make for a documentary filmmaker. These lines are not for the libertine punks promoting their alienation while ordering DIY gear from online conglomerates. These lines are not for the influencing youth pointing luxurious fingers while duped into donating their lives to Russian hackers. These lines are not for the tone-deaf bloggers blissful in their slow-walk judgments, impervious to a retraction. These lines are not for the wholesome crowd nervously searching for the exit to 1950. These lines might be for the broad-stroke marketeers, earless and tribal-stacked, having us gargle tepid vinegar until we agree it's Peruvian coffee, who tout the purity of coal and the vitality of tobacco and devise a killing language more accurate than our actuaries' forecast, who bake bleach into pudding mix, uproot our senses until we believe clear-cutting the Amazon creates more lives than it saves jobs. These lines are not for the unholy senators cashing dense checks while praising their lack of action. These lines are not for the raging boys combusting at will while silently weeping for the warmth of their mother's shoulders. These lines are not for the mad ecologist starving on local fruit while welcoming the silence that greets them in the morning. These lines are not for the grim scientists quantifying their data while calmly drafting their children's last will and testament. These lines are for the insects with nuclear armor, with peripheral vision wide enough to know compromise, who, in their own time, will evolve a civilization from our ruins, create strange music and new logic and an economics that forecasts in 5 dimensions, who, while applying tentacled observations to rusted steel and busted concrete, follow broken lines skyward and ask, even now, such beauty. I wonder what happened. Thank you. Thank you.
And that's what's good and good to know on the local scene this week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching. We are grateful for your attention. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe to the local scene here and share everywhere. Thank you, friends.